Hi there, my name's Hannah. I'm one of the epidemiologists as part of the UK Biobank team. And this is just going to be an overview of the latest UK Biobank data release. This is one of the largest data releases we've done so far. So I'm just going to give an overview of the different kinds of data that we have available and some of the updates that we've got. So about the data, we've got metabolomic data, imaging data, iron vision data, healthcare records, questionnaires, and genomic data, all of which will be updated in the new release. We'll start with the metabolomics data. So we've got comprehensive NMR biomarker data from nearly 500,000 participants, and this is one of the largest data sets of its kind. Previously, we didn't have all the data available, but now we're having a much larger tranche being released. And there are 251 biomarkers which have been measured, capturing a detailed snapshot of metabolic health. Using NMR-based methods, we've been able to get a much more precise measure of these different biomarkers. And this was through a platform developed by Nightingale Health in Finland. And the metabolomic data have been measured across 3 phases from 2019 to 2023 using 9 different spectrometers. The phase 1 measurements have been updated following improved spectrometer calibration. Regarding updates to the imaging data, this is the first release since reaching our 100,000 participant target, and this will include imaging data from all 100,000 participants. So there are cardiac imaging image-derived phenotypes, biventricular cardiac mesh models. There'll be free surfer longitudinal metrics, brain imaging pipeline updates, and skeletal measures derived from DEXA images. So there'll be data regarding a much larger number of participants from which much more analyses can be done. Regarding the imaging data, the cardiac imaging IDPs have also been updated. So we now have cardiac and aortic function data expanded to include a further 40,000 participants. So this data now covers 81,000 participants in total, covering 83 imaging derived fields on cardiac and aortic structure and function from MRI data. These have been derived using the methods described in the Bai et al. Paper, which was published in 2020. And these fields are independent of those in category 162 and should be used separately unless carefully validated. So essentially, these are going to be really useful for further research. You can see on the right-hand side some live footage of the left and right ventricles, and these tools will really be useful for further exploration. Regarding the biventricular cardiac mesh models, these have been derived from cardiac MRI for 55,000 participants and generated using the bivolumetric meshing pipeline, and that covers the entire cardiac cycle. And the biventricular surface mesh is constructed from automated segmentation of short and long axis cine images. So again, linking with those videos you saw in the previous slide. And the full methodology is described in a paper by Hugo et al. From this year, and the accompanying GitHub repository links are available as well. The free surfer longitudinal metrics will also be updated. So there is data for 4,500 participants, which will enable researchers to look at how the brain's changed over time. There's T1 weighted scans from both time points, which have been assessed using this software, and segmented brain regions derived from the DESIC Killian e-Atlas. And this processing was carried out using the King's College London Neuroimaging Analysis Network. And it's worth bearing in mind that these data are different from category 110, which includes single time point measures. Regarding the brain imaging pipeline, there is additional data for almost 21,000 participants, so the overall total is now 90,000. And there are updated image-derived phenotypes and process data. There's a launch of Pandora, which is a pre-processed brain imaging dataset for 82,000 participants. And there are supervoxels derived from independent component analysis across all UK Biobank brain imaging sequences. Regarding the DEXA imaging, there are now more imaging-derived phenotypes available. Some of these describe skeletal features of 38,000 participants, and there are also updates to body composition measures, which are now available for an additional 30,000 participants, increasing the total to 70,000. So there are measures of total fat mass and lean mass and other body components, such as visceral, android, and gynoid fat. There are further updates to our genomic data. This includes clonal hematopoiesis data, or CHIP for short, and this is now available for all participants. CHIP is an age-related phenomenon and is an early indicator of disease risk, and it's essentially a really good biomarker for looking at likelihood of developing blood cancer alongside other diseases. So there's great potential for that to be explored in more depth with much higher power. Genomic ancestry data has also been updated for 450,000 participants and derived from the genotype data. These analyses were conducted by a team of researchers from MassGen in America and the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard. And this will support a more inclusive genetic research approach, which will enable more population-specific risk factors to be looked at. And it's these ethnic and population differences that are becoming increasingly important for research. Regarding the whole genome sequencing data, this has been reprocessed for all 500,000 participants using Dragon software, and individual and joint cord data are available for all participants. This includes CRAM and GVCF files, structural variants, short tandem repeats, and CYP2D6 genotyping per participant. So some of these will enable more research into rare diseases, and there'll be more opportunities there. Regarding the eye and vision data, there are now further updates to the retinal features that have been derived from colour fundus eye images. So retinal features have been automatically derived from colour fundus imaging images for 35,000 participants. There are now quantitative measures that have been based on outlined in Yi et al. 2024. And these fields have been derived independently of other OCT categories. And it's worth bearing in mind that cross-category use will require caution and just further investigation. The retinal images that are available have also been clinically graded. So the retinal features that have been derived from the OCT scans that were taken between 2009 and 2013, and fundus images available for 35,000 participants. These have been manually graded using a procedure outlined by Warwick et al. And this provides the most detailed and clinically relevant description of eye health in UK Biobank to date. It also validates the automated retinal image analysis and links retinal health to broader disease risk. And these fields have been derived independently of other OCT categories. And again, it will be worth just using caution when looking at these measures relative to other categories. And it's worth just bearing in mind that this field of using retinal imaging is really an emerging area. More and more researchers have been using images, particularly in machine learning models, to see how well these images can predict later disease. So it's worth bearing in mind that this is a really exciting field for further research. There have been further updates to the questionnaire data as well. So we've now got new social interactions and focus questionnaire data. These have been collected from over 160,000 participants, and they cover ADHD, autism spectrum quotient, emotional dysregulation, and sensory perception. We also have an update to the experience of pain questionnaire. There are now 11,000 new responses, which completes the data set at around 180,000 participants. There's an additional update to the digestive health questionnaire as well, and there are now 9,000 new responses, bringing the overall number to 184,000 participants. Regarding the healthcare records, there have been updates to the death data for England, Scotland and Wales, the cancer registry data and the hospital inpatient data. And these will be really, really important for a lot of researchers who are interested in using electronic health records and applying linkages to participants. The fee structure, there are 3 tiers that are available for researchers to use, each with their own specific costings relative to the types of data that are available. It's worth bearing in mind that there is a fee for each additional institution. There's further information about the platform credits program and the WRAP transition credits program there, and the Global Researcher Access Fund, some of which may be relevant for you. Lastly, the UK Biobank community website is available. There's a screenshot just on the screen there. And if you need any help or if you'd like further information regarding the showcase, that is available to assist researchers. You can browse help guides and tutorials, links to the showcase, and will enable you to collaborate with your peers and submit further requests to UK Biobank.